questions we often get asked is, why? Why the National Justice Party? Why are you guys doing what you're doing? Why are you out here claiming to represent whites? Don't the Republicans do that? Right? The recent election we had in Virginia, I think, illustrates the answer to this question quite well. This was an election in which the primary issue, much to the chagrin of elites in Washington, D.C., was white parents rebelling against the filth that is being taught to their children in schools and the dangerous environment that the schools present for their children. Many of these people felt their only recourse was to vote for a Republican candidate. This was a feeling that was encouraged by Glenn Youngkin and his campaign. While he encouraged this feeling subtly, very subtly, he was very careful to refrain from making any actual concrete promises to this constituency. And it's not just in Virginia. Virginia was sort of a representative case, a test case, if you will. But schools around this country have effectively become violent rape domes where children are at risk of violence from the unchecked behavior of blacks and sexual assault at the hands of freaks and deviants that are encouraged by the media and protected by the school administrations. The current motto of schools in America is safety, acceptance, tolerance. But this is really only meant to apply to students that aren't white, to students that declare themselves as gay or trans. In operation, it specifically does not apply, and in fact actively works against students that are normal, healthy, and white. Students with decent families, sometimes even kids that might not have a fully put together family. They might live with a single mom or a single dad. But if they're white, they're heterosexual, they're healthy. I mean, I don't even want to talk about kids like that. I don't want to have to talk about kids like that. But because of the situation, we have to talk about school children in terms of their sexuality. I'm talking about normal white kids. So the frustration with this is the energy that propelled Youngkin to his victory, seemingly almost against his own will. Yet what have we actually seen from Youngkin and the Republican Party? What are they actually doing? Well, rather than acknowledging, encouraging, serving, and representing those that voted him into power, they have actually declared the election to be a victory not for white parents in Virginia, not really even for Glenn Youngkin, but for the first black woman lieutenant governor in the state. You've all seen it. You've all seen it, am I right? You've all seen it. The photo we've all seen, most promoted by the GOP establishment in the wake of this election, has that been of an insane, frazzled hair-looking black woman with a million-yard stare holding an AR-15. I mean, that's the image the Republican Party wants to project. That's who they want you to think they are. I believe them. I believe them. So what does Youngkin actually propose to do about the situation in the schools? So far, nothing. The agenda, according to his website, includes a few minor tax proposals and, of course, a comprehensive plan to fight anti-Semitism in the state of Virginia. Complete with a new task force, new laws, and a promise to enact the definition of anti-Semitism according to the International Holocaust Remembrance Association. Now, question for Glenn Youngkin and for the Republican Party and really anybody in politics. Who in Virginia, who in America, other than a very small number of very rich Jews, actually asked for that? No one at all. No one at all. There's not even a promise in Glenn Youngkin's campaign platform to do anything about so-called CRT in schools, a term that is already designed to take any power or meaning out of what is really going on. CRT is abbreviated from the already toothless term critical race theory. The term critical race theory was apparently not weak enough for the Republican Party, so they had to abbreviate it further. Now recently, I saw a video of a woman speaking at a local school board meeting in Virginia. She said that her 6-year-old son had come back from school last year saying that he wanted to kill himself because he is white and he is born evil. We actually played this very video on our podcast the other day. Some of you might have heard it when we played it. So what's really going on here? Why did this little boy say this? It's not because of critical race theory. It's anti-white hate. Yeah! It's anti-white hate being taught in our schools to our children. And it's racial anti-white hate. And it's time to call it what it is. Yeah! When Jews face even the mildest criticism of their control over the political system and the media in the United States, or on the murder of Palestinian civilians in the Middle East, do they allow these kinds of criticisms and rebukes to be termed critical Judaism studies? No. 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 They insist that this be called anti-Semitism. When blacks and their allies face accurate characterizations of blacks and their propensity for criminal behavior, criticism or accurate statements about the racial breakdown of violent crime and murder in the United States, is that called critical African American theory? Or even human biodiversity? No, that's called racism, right? They insist that that be called racism. And these things are actually true. Yep. These things are actually true about Jews and blacks. Something that can't be said for the conspiracy theories and the blood libels that they teach about us in schools to our children. It's not true. So why should whites allow these insane and untrue racial conspiracies and racial hate leveled against us by the media, by intellectuals, by educational institutions to be called something so empty and devoid of meaning as CRT or critical race theory? We shouldn't. We shouldn't. It is hate. It is racial hate, pure and simple. Yeah. That's what it is. That's what we have to insist it be called. This is what's being taught to white children. It's being taught to white children. Make no mistake, it's genocidal and it's racial. These are children that are being taught this. That boy is 6 years old. He's not being taught this because he's conservative. He's certainly not being taught it because he voted for Donald Trump.
They hate you for your race.
It's because of his race. He was taught it because of his race. Republican Party not only refuses to do anything about it, they refuse to even call it by name. And if you try and call it by name, they'll fight you harder than the sick liberals and Jews that promote it. In some cases, we've even seen their shills even switch sides. They go back to the liberals rather than represent you. We've seen this these Republican Party shills, these CRT intellectuals, anti-CRT people, as soon as they're asked to represent white, what do? They renege, they cuck, they revoke, they suddenly are fucking liberals again. The Republicans aren't going to do anything to protect that woman's little boy. They're not going to do anything to protect Scott Smith's daughter. No. They're not going to. He went to a meeting to discuss what happened. He was the one arrested. He was the one beaten by the cops. Not the one that did it to his daughter. The school boards that promote this garbage are becoming so afraid of the parents that are showing up and complaining that they've tried to use the power of the FBI to suppress them. But as it turns out, that's actually a little bit too much. That's a bit too much of a display of totalitarian state power. It leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the public. So this is where the Republican Party comes in. This is where the Republican Party proves their true usefulness to the oligarchs that rule this nation. Greater involvement in this situation from the FBI and from liberal activists will only fan the flames. The job of the GOP, the job of Glenn Youngkin, is to defuse this situation, to de-radicalize those parents, to make them go back home, go back to the TV, go back to the couch. It's over. A Republican Party candidate won. It's going to be okay. We won. We did what we needed to do. We voted Republican. Now, things are going to change, right? No! When has that ever worked? We have the data. We have the data. Many of you in this room and myself actually voted for Donald Trump in 2016. What happened? 4 years of things getting worse for white people. Not even nothing. Less than nothing. Worse than nothing. Things got actively worse. And this is what happens when Republicans get elected. They do nothing, and the left and the liberals and the Jews get activated. And they fight harder. Meanwhile, the Republicans either actively collaborate or they just do nothing and let it happen. And that's what we see time and time and time again.
Cut harder.
Yes. The hope of the Republican Party is that all of these parents, that Scott Smith and a cadre of parents that were going to these meetings, and it's not just in Virginia, it's around the country, they want them to go home. That's their message. Go back home. It's fine. Turn back on the TV. Watch the sports. Watch Colin Kaepernick, bending around or whatever he's doing, Go back and do that. They're hoping they can disarm these people. Anybody that wants to intervene to protect their own children, which is inherently a desire to protect your own race. Yes. They want them to go home and distract them. The only actually policies that these people ever propose are tax cuts for wealthy businessmen and international favors for Zionist Jews. This is why the National Justice Party exists. That is the answer to that question. Yes. We want to protect. We want to protect that woman's little boy. We want to make sure he doesn't go to school that teaches him that he needs to die because he's evil from the beginning. How does a 6-year-old boy get that message? He's not sophisticated. He's not savvy. He gets that message because it's actually being taught. It's not a mistake. It's not an error. He didn't misunderstand the lesson. He got exactly what they were teaching him. Yes. We want to protect that little boy. We want to protect Scott Smith's daughter. We want to protect all the white children that are subject to violence from out-of-control black students, from sexual abuse, from deviants and freaks, and from psychological abuse from system shills teaching them to hate themselves in the schools. We want to do it, and we actually want to do it. We want to defeat the elite class of Jews and neoliberal apparatchiks that promote this garbage to our people, and we mean it. The GOP wants to trick you into voting for them and then use the power that you have granted them, that people have granted them, to do favors for big business and Zionist Jews. We understand that this system needs to be rebuilt from the ground up by a group of ideologically and community-motivated white people. The same way it was built before. People that are actually intent on creating a future for ourselves, for our race, for our country, and for our people. That is why the National Justice Party exists. That's why we formed it. That's why we're asking for all of you and all of your support. And that's why I know that all of you are here today. Thank you very much.